Today on Honestly, Dear Listener, we're talking about keeping your wits about you when you're making so many things at once.
We're talking to a very special person, our friend Charlotte Campbell. She's an artist, a costumer, a performer, a crafter of many different things, a sewer. Emily, you tell us a little bit more about Charlotte.
Charlotte Campbell is an actress, singer, seamstress, costume designer, and fiber artist. For the past decade, she has made a career performing and costuming at theaters across the country. Her work in the fiber arts goes back much farther. Her grandmother taught her to weave at the age of 6, and since then, Charlotte has turned her love of fabric into several side hustles. She recently launched a handmade home decor company called Pillowfish.
And they're literally like the cutest things ever.
They really seriously are.
They're pillows that look like fish.
And their smoochy lips, they're so
Yeah.
freaking cute.
Let's welcome Charlotte.
Hi, Charlotte.
Hi, Emily. Hi, Mary.
Hi. Thanks so much for coming on the show and talking to us today. I'm so looking forward to hearing all of your wisdom and your suggestions and all the things. So thank you for being here.
I'm so excited to be here.
So tell us about what your life is like right now, because every time I talk to you, it seems like you're doing a different set of really cool creative things. So tell me what's happening, what's going on with you.
Well, right now I am trying to get ready for the next drop of my Pillowfish, which is a new little baby business I'm doing where I make basically throw pillows that look like very glamorous fish. And each one is handmade and I guess semi-quilted. I don't know, but I designed them like in 2013 probably, like out of paper. I was going through a paper cutting phase. And I thought that would be a really cute pillow. And I didn't do anything about that until 2021, I don't think. And then recently I was like, I'm going to make a lot of these. So I am. And that's what I'm working on. But I also, I have some costumes, like Christmas caroler costumes I need to be making also. So I'm trying to do both of those things. And I also have an ornament commission that is not super time consuming, but I am trying to get done by Christmas. That is a self-imposed deadline. It will probably change. So those are my things right
So
now.
you have several different irons in the fire right now.
Yes.
Oh, and by the way, Charlotte is also a fellow sewer, as am I. And so I love seeing all the things. She made her own wedding dress. She makes costumes. She did what did you do? You did like costuming and props and things like that you've done like theater for a local theater, for a children's theater.
Yes.
And just seeing the things that she makes in my Instagram feed brings me so much joy because I'm like, wow, she's really doing it. She's sewing for joy and also maybe a little bit for money. But like, I see the joy in what she makes, and that's inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And you just closed a show too, like as a performer. So,
Yes.
right? I mean, how long ago now? Not long.
Like 3 weeks, maybe. Well, almost a month. We're coming up on a month.
Wow.
So you do a lot of things. You sew, you perform, you sing, you dance, you act. All
Yes,
like so many
very
things.
I dance very loose definition on that, but yeah.
And you make puppets. I mean, come on. Like what is going on? You can do everything. So we wanted to kind of talk about today, how do you balance all the things? I mean, there's so much to unpack because it's not just keeping sanity, of course, but also like what's on the horizon and like kind of scheduling all this stuff so that it can work out. So I'm super excited. Tell me about, how did this come to be that you were like balancing everything at the same time? Like, tell me about that.
Well, the crafting and making things has just sort of been always a part of me. My grandmother taught me how to weave when I was like 6, and she's a fiber artist. And my mom is also a sewer and crafty lady in general, a good painter and things. And so I've been making stuff since like for as long as I can remember, and I really like to be busy. So I've always had something to work on. Like I can't watch TV without a project in my hands. Um, so that was always just like not even something I thought of as a thing I was doing, if that makes sense. It wasn't, it was just a thing that was happening, I guess.
Like part of your personality, just who you are.
Yeah. And then like for instance, when I was trying to figure out what to go to college for, and this also just tells you like what a dope I am. Like I didn't even occur to me like, oh, I can further my skills in one of these things. It was like that wasn't even a thing that passed through my brain. Like it was, which now I'm like, oh wow, Charlotte, if you'd gone to school and like actually gotten some concrete stuff instead of the hodgepodge of skills you are working with, that might have been great. Could have made some connections, but didn't even occur to me. I was just like, oh yeah, that's a thing I do. That's not a thing I need to go learn. Fool I am.
What did you go to school for? What's your degree?
Communications. I went to get a degree, essentially. I was like, we got to get this paper and get out. So
that's so, when you do so many things that you love, and then the culture reminds you, oh, you still have to make a living. You still have to live, and you have to make money and all of that stuff. Do you find that the making the money part takes the joy out of it for you? Or do you feel like, oh, of course, I'm just going to do this thing to make money?
Yes, it really can. But I've also been trying to find my way around how to make money and still get the joy. And that can be really tricky because there's a lot of things that I've like, people will be like, oh, I'll give you money to like make this thing for me. And I'm like, okay. And I inevitably hate doing it because it's not something I wanted to be doing.
Right.
So it's like a slog to get through it. Even if it's a thing that like when it's done, I'm excited about it, but it wasn't, it's such a selfish maker. It's like, it wasn't my idea. So I'm just like,
Do you ever feel guilty about that?
Yeah. Yes, I do, because there's people I love will be like, will you, like, I had a friend ask me to make her wedding dress. Whoa. And I love her. And she has great taste in everything she was showing me. I was like, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh. Like I would, in theory, love to make that. But I know myself well enough, and I've thought that enough times and then actually had to face the work of it. Well, first of all, I was like, I finished my wedding dress 7 days before my wedding. Do you want that? Do you really want that? And second of all, I don't take clothing commissions anymore because I've had to, because there's so many irons in the fire, I've had to really start making myself be choosy about which of those irons I choose to keep in there. And if I'm trying to do it for joy, like, then I really should keep it joyful. It's easy to get burnt out because sewing is not, as you know, it takes a long time. Like, it is not a quick, like, here's my beautiful project, here's my satisfaction. Like, sometimes it feels like it never is gonna end.
Yes.
Especially if you're like, if you've got a big pile of things, like you're costuming a show, and it's just like, I am chained to my sewing machine. Like, to be super dramatic about it.
Like, no, I have felt that way before because I've been doing this 1-year sewing program, and we have deadlines for things like this shirt and these pants have to be done by this date at this time period, or else, you're not making your deadline. And I just, when I'm doing that, I feel like I hate it. I like the thing that I enjoy so much when I put constraints on them or allow constraints on them, it turns into a thing where I'm like, I don't want to do this at all, like, but then I feel guilty because it's a thing that I love to do. But when there's money involved, that somehow takes the joy out of it. And when it's for anyone else but myself. So you see where the guilt comes in, because I'm like, well, if it's something that's just for me, is that okay? And I've had to come to the conclusion of like, it's got to be okay. But I feel like the culture around us tells us, well, unless you're doing it for the greater good of everyone else, or if you're not making money at it, like, what's the point?
Right. And then conversely, there's this other school of thought, like, especially when it comes to like crafts and sewing and like making clothes specifically, but also just sewing in general. It devalues that work as not art, because it is
right,
like, making a functional item. And then, I mean, on top of that, like making clothes, when you can go to, I don't know, H&M and buy something for like on the sale rack for like $6, like we're just devaluing these things that like you and I sometimes make as art. And like, these are also being made by people who I would consider artisans, who are getting paid like nothing. That's another thing. But like, we're losing the value we put on these items that we make, like in society. Like, we don't consider these things valuable because you can just like get them anywhere. But B, like making crafts like embroidery and knitting and things like that, those are like considered historically not fine arts.
right.
There's an argument in the art world about like whether like crafts work and stuff could be considered fine art, because you aren't just making art for the sake of art. You're doing something with another purpose.
Right.
Coincidentally, it tended to be women's work, so we won't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, this idea that if it is functional, it's a craft, i.e. it's not art. But
right.
if the only purpose of it is to be looked at, then maybe it is art. Like I refuse to believe that, the guy, I can't even remember who it was, but he had the urinal and he wrote his name on the side and they called it art. Like, that can't be more art than what we do, right?
Totally. Oh, totally, yeah. Like, and at the end of the day, like, I do feel empowered by people who just call whatever art, because I'm like, okay, fine, then this is also art.
Right.
Especially when you're coming up with your ideas and you're not commissioned. It's not like like the pillowfish. That's your choice. That's something you thought of and made. Like, it's the same with clothes and things that I mean, I wonder, does some of that guilt transfer into, or I know with music and like being a artist that way, I kind of feel like if I make something I want to make, then it's like, if people don't like it, it's a lot harder. So I would like to stick to things I know people would like me to make. Like, do you sort of feel like some of that guilt comes in, or like it's hard to balance that when you're making things for money? It's like easier to know, well, people ask me for this, so I'm just like making it. But when you're having to create something yourself, do you have trouble with that sneaking in? Does that make any sense at all?
Yes, it is nice. I need affirmation on things, especially when you're sewing or making something. Like, when you're looking at something for so long, like, you lose any perspective on whether or not it's or if it looks weird or something. It's like you've been staring at it so long. So I do like making things that I already know people like, that like I've already gotten the affirmation on.
I guess it's kind of just like riffing off of the differences between that, and sort of, now that you're making pillowfish, that's your creation and you're trying to make money from that, like from your thing, and like what elements do you have to go through to kind of transfer that business to then something that's your idea, not just like a commissioned thing?
So I used to have an Etsy store where I make these little ornaments that are basically just like little ladies. And I was like, what would make me some fine Christmas money is if I made little off-brand Disney ladies.
Nice.
So I like Disneyfied my little ladies that I made and had, like Ice Queen and like Edison.
Nice.
So, those gals. And the way I did it on there was I kind of did made to order. Like you could get a custom one or you'd like order Mary Poppins. I don't remember what I called her. Off brand, but
Happy Nanny.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That's so funny. Happy Nanny.
But somebody ordered Mary Poppins, I would make Mary Poppins like based on the pattern I'd already made and send her off. And there was a lot less joy in just making the same thing over and over again. Even though I had designed it and I liked my design, I got bored just making the same thing. I realized in that endeavor that what I preferred to do was make something that I want to make, i.e., here's my fish. These are the colors I chose this time. These are the fabrics I chose this time. Do you want this fish? Buy it. Do you not want this fish? Don't buy it. Like, making a thing that I want to make and then offering it up is a lot more satisfying to me than being told what to make. And other people, like, right, read this, or, I mean, sometimes they are, but
Yes.
I love that so much.
I feel like I have that same thing where people are like, well, can you make me a dress? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. But I'm going to make a dress that I really like. And ideally, I want to grade it up to larger sizes, grade it down to smaller sizes, make a pattern, and sell the pattern online.
heck yeah.
To me, that just, and that way, because I don't want to be sewing for other people. And I feel guilty for saying that. I really do. Like, I've struggled so much with just feeling like, but you love sewing so much, so why wouldn't you want to sew for other people? Like, just because you love doing a thing doesn't mean you love every single aspect of it or every incarnation of it. You can just like the thing with conditions, I like to make things just for me. And I like to make patterns, so I'm going to put the pattern up there, and if the pattern sells, great. I like to make fish. I want to do them in this exact color, this whatever. If they buy it, cool. If they don't, that's also cool. Like, I love having the permission to do a thing exactly the way I want to do it and to not feel bad that I'm not doing it a different way, I guess.
This correlates so much with music and everything. It's like I've gone through that with gigging. I love singing. I want to sing, but I don't want to sing here, and I don't want to sing here, and I don't want to sing this type of music. Sometimes, though, I have to do that because I need that money, and it's so much less joyful when you're having to slog through some of that stuff, and then you feel bad because you're like, well, you should be grateful that you're singing for money or like making something for money, that people want to do that, It happens, I think, with tattoo artists. I see that happen a lot where people are making stuff that other people want them to make. And then they're like, here's my flash sale. I made this art. This is what I want to put on people. If you like it, take it. If you don't, I don't care. That's a freeing thing. Do you think maybe like that's how like performing fits into sort of supplement not only income, but like the output needs to change, like how you're making things and what you're making needs to change to keep the joy in both things? Does that make sense?
You mean bouncing back and forth between both?
Yeah. Like, how does that I'm bad at asking questions. Carrie, I should leave the question asking to you.
No, you're doing
Carrie,
fine.
tell her what I'm trying to ask.
Do you feel a sense of whiplash when you're being whipped back and forth between so many endeavors as a Renaissance woman? Singing, acting, dancing, sewing, crafting, all the things.
Not whiplash. I find that when I am feeling like artistically inspired, I want to do all the things.
Mm-hmm.
I often feel very sleepy from going back and forth. So I haven't done this in a while, thank God, but I used to costume shows that I was also performing in, because costuming, like performing was like my dream job, and then costuming was kind of like my side hustle. And so I would, and here it comes again, like the selfish sewing. Like, I love costuming so much more if I get to wear some of the things I made.
Yes, totally.
So I actually did prefer that to just costuming for the most part. But it could be exhausting. Like when I'm like in the trenches of costuming, like taking a shower sometimes, it oftentimes is like one of the first things on the chopping block. I'm like,
oh, yes.
wearing these clothes day in and day out. Like I'm sleeping in them, I'm waking up wearing them all day. Like,
yes.
You're just sewing. You're just sewing, and there's always something to do. I cannot stress enough, like, if you are in the performing arts or you know someone who costumes, give them the biggest hug. It is like the most never-ending job of all time. And like, because you take it home. I would wake up, go to work, so, do some fittings, see some people, come home, sew in front of my TV, like, eat, sew with one hand.
Practice your song that you're singing in the show while you're sewing something for the show.
Yeah, and then you're stuck in rehearsal, but like it's like, maybe I'll work on my lines. Maybe I'll actually just be like gluing feathers to this hat while I sit to wait to go on stage.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, do you feel like if you're not costuming, do you feel like it's a good break then when you perform, because it's like you can compartmentalize and still keep that creativity line through? Like, is it good compartmentalization?
Yeah, so when I just did that show, the last one I did, which was like my first one in a while because I'd been costuming full time, it was so nice because like once the rehearsal process was over and I was like getting all of the like creative output and fun of just performing, and then I'd get to go home and my time was my own. But I was having like the creative juices flowing on stage, and then I'd get to go home and put them into whatever I wanted creatively, which turned into the Pillowfish situation. That was really nice. I love that. But I'm not a musician performer in the same way you are, Emily, where I create my own content. Like I perform someone else's content and do what I can with that, and then like go do something else. So my performing isn't related to output except for the literal performance, which I think is good for me, because then it's just like a fun, freeing thing to do that gets my juices flowing for other things. I mean, it is its own end. I do love to perform, but
I think though it's still creative energy output. I just love that you're saying it's almost like when we've talked about the conduit thing. You're like using the charge from that creativity to inspire what you're creating that's yours. That's like a really cool thing. This is what I was trying to ask about, 10 minutes ago, and I think there are obviously like leading questions, because I'm like, I feel like I relate to this. Do you feel like this very specific thing that I'm asking in a weird way? But I think that's awesome, because it's like you're giving part of your creative brain a break. And it's like supercharging it in another way.
Totally. And also, like, I don't know, might sound weird, but when I make things, like where I get the most happy energy out of sewing for myself and making myself clothes to wear. And there is an aspect of my performer self in there where it's like, somebody's telling me they like my dress. You know? So some of that is some of those little, whatever you want to call it, like narcissistic needs or whatever, are getting met on stage because the look at me is getting fed. But I mean, I guess ironically, and not ironically, that's wrong usage of that, but it just makes me want to be seen more, I guess, or just and be seen just in like I want to show up in the world like in the most artistic and like joyful expression of myself is what I mean by that. And I think that's what I'm after when I'm like making myself clothes and things. Is like I love to make them, but then I also am like, oh, and I'll wear this to this and I'll feel like this. I don't know.
Like, you bring up a really interesting point, and that is, is it narcissistic to want to be seen in a performance capacity? Because I feel like a lot of people would say, yeah, like if you need to have that, if you need to have validation from other people, like that's narcissistic. I'm wondering if something else is going on, though, because to me it seems like two different things. One is I need validation because I don't know who I am, and I need somebody to make me feel better about myself. And then it seems like there's this other thing that's happening when we're on stage or performing that's like, I want to be seen because I want to be a part of the flow that's happening. And it may look like the same thing, but those are two very different kinds of energy. And I don't think it's bad to say, I want to be on stage and I want to be seen. I get energy from that. I give energy from that, etc.
I do agree with that. And I was just being self-deprecating when I said narcissistic.
I know, but I do think I do think that is a really especially for women, like that it's okay to want to be seen. It's okay to want to be heard. It's okay to not be just the audience member forever. Like you can get up and you can make noise, and we don't have to feel bad about that.
Totally. And I think the reason, maybe subconsciously, that I made the self-deprecating joke about narcissism is because people do, like, when you go out, like, wearing a dress, like, even just a dress, I'm like, a lot dresses are back in, guys, like, but people love to make you feel weird about it. Not everyone.
You're dressed up today.
Oh, yes.
What are you so dressed up for? And I'm like, why do I need to?
Yes,
justify this?
I don't think there's any such thing as overdressing.
Agreed. But people, like, I have this thing where, like, I want to be seen, but like generally that goes hand in hand with your motives being questioned, or you being questioned, or people like trying to undermine that. And I don't think people even mean it. And like, for the most part, I don't think people are like, I'm going to cut this person down. Right. I think it comes from like, oh no, should I also be dressed up? Like, I think people don't mean to be, jerks about it, but they just feel weird when you're showing up in like a loud way. It's uncomfortable. So like I have this dual thing where I'm like, I want to present the way I want to present and be colorful and extra and over the top. But I also don't want people to say shit to me about it.
Right. Charlotte, I see you just in the things that you make, in your own personal style, how you talk. I feel like so much of your art is about play and playfulness and fun. And, even the day that I met you, we went on this tour of the Nashville Public Library, and they were giving us kind of like a backstage tour of their puppet department. And you, me, and Emily, and your husband, I think that was all of us. We went on this tour where we got to see all of the amazing puppets they had at the library for years and years and years. And I just saw your face light up. You were taking all these pictures of all the puppets, which puppets are nothing but play, And can you talk about what play means to you? Because when you're on stage, when you're saying, I want to be seen, so much of that is like, I want to play. I hear you saying, I want to play.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really nice way to put it. I agree with that. I love people, and that's another thing about dressing in a certain way, or like when I see people dress like out in the world, it's so fun when when somebody comes up to, like, there's the people who say the things that kind of make you feel small, but then there's the people who are like, oh, like, yes, like, I see you, I get it. And then you see someone else out there, like a lady who's just got her hair done, and she's, wearing what she wants, and you see that person having a good time and like putting energy and soul into this like expression, and you say, oh yes, I see what you're doing and I love it. Like, that's so nice, that exchange of energy. And then on stage, the same thing. Like, if everybody who wanted to be on stage really was just like in it for the look at me, like, no play or musical would be compelling, because nobody would be sharing energy on stage.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, is what that's all about. Is like, when I am in a show with people, I either like it or don't like it based on how interactive isn't the right word, but how collaborative the people on stage are, how much they give you, how much that they are in it with you and like having a good time with you.
Yeah,
like
the commitment that they make to playing with you.
Yes, to play with you. That's what it is. It's like you get to play with your friends under like a specific set of
okay, you're the king and I'm the princess, and we're
And I
literally, yes.
like, prime example, Emily and I, we're in middle school and we're making crap, and people are like, okay, that's just them, they're just doing their thing again. Like, we're making songs and dances and all these things, and here we are knocking on 40's doorstep, and we're still doing the same crap that we did. We're still making things because she is my playmate. Like, yes. And she's just as in. I know that when I do a thing, she's just as in it, and she's going to send something back to me, and I'm going to send something back to her. We're going to yes and it back and forth. And I feel like as adults, we get so serious because we're like, we need to do, like, I'm an adult now. Like, we lose our ability to play. And then we get all sorts of grim. Like, do we need, I feel like almost sometimes I need permission to play. Do you feel like you give yourself permission to play?
I guess so. I guess so. I think part of it is, though, that like I don't know if you want to call it selfish or what, but like that is what makes me happy. And if I have the opportunity to do it, I'm going to do it. Like, when I am making things that make me happy, I'm just it's like a circle. Like, then I am happier, and then I keep making
more things. Yeah. Oh, I love that so much. This, like, I'm just over here, like, I'm absorbing so much cool stuff because I think it's so easy to get caught in our creativity as like, and this is my grown-up job, and so like I have to go play now. Like I kind of feel like that sometimes. I forget that why I'm doing this all day every day is because I love making things, and I have been making things since I was a little girl, just like starting companies, selling rocks and making up dances and songs. Like that's what I that's what I do. I just love this so much because it's like, yeah, we're getting life from all this cool stuff and not just like, how do we make money from this pattern? But it's working out. I mean, I think often people ask questions of like successful creatives about how they did that and how they made money. And so often the answer is so unsatisfying because they're like, I don't know, I was just like doing stuff I wanted to do and then decided to try to get some money, and I got some money and I just do it. And it's like, that is so unsatisfying when we're over here like being like, what do I make to make people like it? Like you be yourself, you find your joy and you find the things that you want to create and people come to it. Isn't that annoying? Wow.
That is
that answer.
That's a mindset shift though, that, you know, like how much more, if you're approaching your art, how much more inspirational or inspired can you be if you approach it from the mindset of this is play versus this is work, you know? And I just those simple mindset shifts, I think you get a whole different output.
Yep. That's so awesome. This took a turn today that I didn't expect it to take, and I'm just delighted. Charlotte, you're amazing. Thank you so very much for joining us today and sharing your brilliant life and ideas and playfulness. Plus, you're just so damn cute. I can't take it. I'm sorry. I just have to say it.
Play meets in my whole sandbox.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, you guys, Pillowfish dropped new fishes on Wednesday. So go check it out. How do they find you? How do they get those fish?
Well, on Instagram, you can follow me at Pillowfish, PILLOWFISH CO. And then the website is pillowfishco.com, but that link is in the Instagram bio. So yeah, come look at my little school of fish.
Awesome.
Yay.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.